It is an amazing day to just show up. Hi, everyone. Yvonne Heath here, nurse turned author, speaker, and changemaker, and your host. Welcome to Navigating Grief with Heart and Humor, where we talk about, plan, and prepare for grief, transitions, end of life, and everything in between, long before it arrives, and diffuse the fear so we can live fully now. That is what we aspire to do. Most often, we have been through crisis, faced the death of a loved one, a diagnosis, and we realized how ill prepared we were to navigate this journey, to have difficult but necessary conversations, and how we created excessive suffering in our lives and in the lives of others. And so we are ready for change. And that is why we are here, because it is with community and learning and supporting from one another, with each other, that we can do it differently from now on, starting right now. Just having the willingness to reflect back and say, wow, that was more challenging than it needed to be. How I behaved, the things I said. And here's the thing: we cannot change the past. We can learn from it. We can acknowledge and allow our hard feelings. We can wish we had done it differently. And the greatest thing that we can do is recognize that, forgive others, ask for forgiveness, and do it differently next time. So let's get started. As always, I'm going to take a moment to center myself, to ground myself, so that I am fully present. I'm not thinking about all the things going on the other side of that door. There's many for all of us, many things happening, a lot of moving pieces in the puzzle of life. And I invite you to just take this moment to be fully present, to just show up, to land here, set an intention for what you need from our time together today, and I will do the very same. So I always like to take 2 slow, deep breaths, inhaling, exhaling, whew, and just land here. So I invite you to have your own practice or to follow along. When I do that, I'm very intentional with breathing in love, gratitude, kindness, and the wisdom to share what needs to be heard today and to learn as I go along. And as I exhale, I let go of all that does not serve me. These are practices that I have incorporated into my life as I face grief, crisis, challenges personally, as I help to support others. Because if we learn how to just show up for others in all of this, we must just show up for ourselves first. And I talk about that a lot. And it is beyond getting enough sleep, eating well, drinking fluids, getting fresh air, exercise. That's just a given. But I don't talk about that. It's like that next level of developing rituals and practices that will feed your heart and soul, being completely fulfilled yourself, myself. I know that I am in charge of my own happiness, of checking in mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it. And understanding that when people talk about compassion fatigue and I give, and they feel burnout, they are depleted. They are not giving from their overflow. And that's what I love to also think. We can give from our overflow, right? If we take good care of ourselves, compassion, gratitude, love, I mean, it's limitless. It's limitless. And so if we think of giving from our overflow and checking in with ourselves, we are still human. We will need breaks along the way. We will need time away from the challenges, and giving ourselves that time. People say, I don't have time for that. Well, I beg to differ, because if you can take 3 minutes somewhere in the grass, outside, in the sunshine, and do those slow, deep breaths, intentional deep breaths for 3 minutes, I promise you, you can, it's like resetting yourself. Obviously, there are times in life where there's crisis and it's even more challenging. And in those times, I invite you and encourage you and implore you even more strongly to make time for those moments. If that's all you have, be very intentional with it. Be very intentional. And even as you are grieving, even in crisis, there are things to be grateful for. Sometimes it's just that cup of coffee, a shower, a friend who checked in, some nice cold water, the fact that you're breathing, the fact that you can see there's things. So these are the practices that can make a difference for us as we move along. And as we've been exploring my book, Love Your Life to Death, there have been some beautiful, wonderful, heartfelt, heartwarming stories, and some very challenging stories, and some things that are pushing us, right? Especially if these are conversations that you have not explored. I just honor you so much for wanting to do this differently. Maybe these conversations about grief, death, dying were normalized in your family, and you're thinking, what's the big deal? and we have to meet people where they are. For some people, they've never even thought to talk about these conversations. We don't talk about that in our family. Oh my goodness, why would we? And why would we? The answer to that is because grief and end of life and crisis and transitions is something that is just a part of this journey. So we have two choices, right? We don't have choices about that. Our two choices are to talk about, plan, and prepare, develop coping skills and strategies, and become proactive. Even if nobody else was in your family, it can start with you. That choice, or continue to stay in that bubble of denial and wait till crisis and end of life hits you like a freight train. I'm sorry, I know that's a little tough love, but you're here. So you obviously want to do it differently. And this is a wonderful step. So let's continue on. In our last chapter, chapter 10, we explored comparing scenarios that I have witnessed over and over in my life, where someone's well prepared for grief, death, and dying, and had open conversations and allowed grief and joy and laughter and sadness and all of it, and those who are in denial and all of the ripple of that. It's a ripple of destruction. And that isn't even an exaggeration. A ripple of destruction of the possibility of having a peaceful death, relationships destroyed, things just becoming so much more complicated than they need to be. And so this is all about knowing and accepting that death and transitions and are all a part, and change is the only constant, are a part of this journey. Some things we know are coming, and we can prepare as best we can. But no matter what, when people say, well, how could I prepare? They died suddenly, they died young. Yes, I understand. But again, it's having that layer, right? That layer, that belief about life and death, the coping skills, strategies. How do I grieve? Who can support me well? What do I understand? All of those things in place. And it starts with you. Do you know how many people have come up to me, especially after I wrote my book, and said, okay, how do I get my dad or my mom to have this talk? You don't start there. As I said, you start with you. And where can you start? Well, let's review chapter 11. So, about that talk. So we know how we became death phobic and what feeds into it. We have made great strides, and we know what we still need to do. Now is the time to have the talk. But where do we begin? And of course, you begin with having the conversation with yourself first. Before having a conversation about end of life planning with anyone else, let's take a moment to review. So let's start with you. We've explored the topics of death phobia and what has fed into our death phobia. Do you have any other fears or fears that you'd like to or need to address more? About a clear understanding of what medical futility means, right? When we are giving treatments, although they will not produce a good outcome, because some professionals or families are saying just treat, treat, treat. And we need to be able to be more active and be our own advocate and advocate for others and explore quality of life and quantity of life, which is more important to me. There are so many wonderful resources out there to explore these topics as well. The podcast, side note, The Waiting Room Revolution, is a great place to start. So yes, what does that mean to you? Quality of life, quantity of life. And when we keep checking in, am I in a good place mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially? Let's be in charge of our own selves and continue to check in. Have you gone on that spiritual journey? What do you believe about life and death? What will help to create a soft landing for you? Do you have your post, that internal or something that you can hold on to no matter what in times of despair, something permanent, right? Our relationships, our jobs, our lives, everything ebbs and flows and changes. What is that constant that you can hold on to? Your religion and spirituality, meditation, yoga, something, music, but art, whatever it may be. Find your post. And of course, all the simple things, your legal documents. I just think that should be mandatory. I've said it before and I will say it again. Your will, are you a registered organ donor? Who is your power of attorney for finances? Can you please teach our young people to start this so that when they won't get to our age and older and it's a lot of damage control and we're trying to convince people to do these documents. Who is responsible? Who should be responsible to plan my end of life? And all my documents, it's me. And you are responsible for you. Can we please start? Just start. I know if you haven't done any of this, it's a daunting task. Get help. Someone to help you. Follow along. There's many steps in my book that can help you, but please stop procrastinating. I promise you, when you have these things in place, whew, huge relief, just a huge relief. You just feel, okay, I've checked in, it is that check-in as well about your mortality. Yes. And that reminder, I need to live the heck out of my life right now. So again, just get that stuff out of the way. And when you have done these things, it's interesting with the sort of end of life plans or letters that you want to write to your family, just make this a part of your life. Don't make it like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to get to this and it's going to take forever. Just incorporate it. I've shared that at every year at tax time, we review things. And quite honestly, I do it more often when we move and when there's a change. And I was just thinking, again, I don't have it all perfect, all my T's crossed, my I's dotted, but I certainly have done much of the work. And my family knows my values, my morals. They understand my power of attorney, understands what I value. And that is one of the most important pieces. So I just realized, we moved into a new house and we have 3 children. At this time that I'm recording this, we have one child who is older and now have a grandson, 2 children who are still at home. We have this home. Let's figure that out. If there was, a time said, better live for a really long time. I have a lot of work to do. But that doesn't mean I won't plan for some devastating event to happen and Jordy and I die at the same time. Well, we have this house. Well, 2 kids live here, one doesn't. Can we figure that out? I don't want my children. I don't want my children trying to navigate, okay, well, who gets what and you still live here? Let's have those conversations now. And I don't have them as doom and gloom. I just have them. So have all those talks with yourself, knowing that these things just need to be reviewed as things change. No big deal. Just as life changes, these plans change. I also invite people, the more complicated things are in your life, more people that your death will affect, the more clear it needs to be. So I certainly invite everyone to make things legal and to make sure they're notarized and witnessed and whatever you need, and write it all down and video. I believe that is such a perfectly wonderful way to make sure that people truly understand. You can read your wishes. You can say, I know the house and the kids still live in it and this and that, or I know that, everyone wanted this ring and this is why I've done this. And I hope that, everyone, that I'm not attached to material things. I hope you feel the same and that you're happy with. And if anyone wants to trade anything, that's fine too. If there are things that meant a lot to me and they don't feel like they're meaningful to you, move them past, pay them forward to somebody who will appreciate them. So you see, to have those things videoed as well, write letters to your family, do whatever. Just if we can incorporate this into our lives. So you see, the more you do this, the more comfortable you will get with this uncomfortable conversation. Right? This is not an uncomfortable conversation with me anymore. It was in the beginning. Oh my goodness. I was very awkward with so many of these. There's many topics and many layers within this. I've made it my life's work to be a great example, to others and to do the very best that I can do and be a great example to my children. So when you have the talk with yourself and then you say, okay, I really need to have this conversation with mom, dad, Aunt Betty Sue, who lives by herself, my children, all of these people who will be directly impacted by my death, or elephant in the room, I will have a say at the end of their life. And I do not want to think about and leave these things to chance. So having that conversation with yourself and developing that comfort, and then you can go to the next person that you want to speak to and say, I've done this in my life. It feels so good. I just can't express it. I just can't even express to you how good I feel about doing this. And I'd really like us to have that conversation. Start with the people. That won't be totally terrifying to go talk to. I started with my mom because I knew that, we have deep philosophical conversations all the time. So I started with my mom and, we had banter and I wrote about the ugly picture that she tried to give me. I was like, give it to my sister. We made this something that brought us closer together. And there are still many relatives. I've had the conversations. There's still information that would be very necessary. I give everyone a timeline, including myself. Do I procrastinate and do they procrastinate? Absolutely. We're all human. This would have been wonderful to all have done many years ago. It's not all done, but we need to start somewhere. And again, start with yourself, then the people that will, even if they're friends or somebody that you just need to have this conversation with that you know will be open. Just say, oh, I need to talk to, this relative about this. I'm really uncomfortable. What do you think? And have that conversation. And when you approach the relatives that are difficult, you can say, I've done this for my family. This is a gift to my family so that no one will have to try to crack codes and figure out what I would have wanted. And I'm asking my family what would be important to them. And let's have these conversations. And I'm really asking you to do this so that I know how I can best honor you. And I don't want our family to be arguing about the best thing that should happen. That is the best thing that you can do. You can only lead a horse to water. You cannot make them drink. You will have relatives and people who will absolutely refuse to have these conversations. Damage control, right? We haven't normalized these conversations in our society. We've started in the last several years, thank goodness. But for many people, it's a hard no. They are not having this conversation. And that's okay. Then you just have to do the very best that you can do along the way. If you foresee that there will be issues and there will be other people that will have a say at the time of their death, and you think that there will be some challenges, have those conversations now without the person. You think, okay, who did I say? Aunt Betty Sue, whatever her name is. I think that she won't have a conversation about this. She doesn't have any of this in place. What do you think? Let's talk and talk to your sibling or their daughter, whoever, to have those conversations about the best thing that could happen at the time, because she won't talk about it. And then I love this. I always say, well, and you can take it a step further, create their end of life plan and say, here, this is what we're going to do. Because we don't know what you would have wanted. And they could say, oh, well, I don't like that. Oh, well, what would you like? So again, start with yourself. Teaching by example, walking your talk is the greatest gift that you can give yourself and others. You try to tell people, do as I say, not as I do. It's like, really? I'm not going to listen to you. We can change. And just again, if you haven't had these conversations and now everything feels very jumbled and overwhelming, lean into it. One step at a time, one thing at a time. If you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming, wills, power of attorney, organ donation, my head is spinning. Take one thing at a time. What is something that you can explore? Maybe organ donation. Just go to the organ donation site here in Canada, donor.ca. I mean, it's easy to find. Watch a couple of the videos and I promise you will register as an organ donor immediately. But here's the thing. Once you register and it's in there and you let people know, P.S., I am a registered organ donor and I would like that honored, please. Thank you very much. That subject is done, or it's done. You can have conversations about it, but it is in there. It's in the system. It's done. You've let people know. You search your own soul for that answer. Done. So you can take that off the overwhelm pile. Power of attorney for health decisions. Ooh, Who would I trust? Who do I know, love, and trust, know, like, and trust that would really honor my goals of care, my decisions? Is that my friend, my family? Make that decision. It can always change. And here's the other thing I will put as a side note, a little addendum here. There are some places and some forms. If this happened to you, would you want this tube feeding? If this happened to you, would you? And so much of that depends. It depends on the scenario, on the situation, on whatever it may be. Is this going to be a short-term thing? What matters most, is that your power of attorney and your family, your people know what you value most: quality of life, quantity of life. I've said it in so many shows that everybody better know, no matter what my age, right? If my body is failing and any treatment is going to be futile and will just, perhaps I will live longer, but with no quality of life, which means I can't do any of the things that are important to me to do. Hell no, that is not what I would choose. So we don't have to split hairs and know, okay, this too, this, know your values, and then invite others to do the same. Have these conversations with your children. When your children or young people in your life reach the age of adult 18, have them do a power of attorney and go through the process. And the paperwork will be very simple because chances are at 18, their life is fairly simple compared to what it is with every decade ongoing. And then have them update it throughout their lives. This is the greatest thing we can do. See, this isn't a plan because you're going to die tomorrow. This is a plan for the future, right? Because we all die someday. Just imagine if we started that brave conversation with ourselves and then we rippled forward and had it with others. And then we shared with our family and friends and whoever, wow, we did this in our family and what a relief it was. Here are some of the resources that helped us. This is what we've done. And I will tell you, it is a beautiful bonding experience. We can make it so. And that is the choice that we have. That is a choice we can make. Do I want to live my life to the fullest now, knowing that this journey, I am not immortal. Someday my physical body will die and I'm very well prepared. So there is peace in my life. And I invite you to explore that one step at a time. Like I said, lean into it. Find a friend who will talk to you about this. Connect with me. I have many resources on my website, Love Your Life to Death. My book, my program, Get Ready for Grief, is so helpful. You do not have to do this alone, but you have to do this. No, I invite you to do this. Make this a part of your journey. Planning your life well, planning your death well, and just being a part of the change we need to see in the world. So thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. In the next episode, I'll share final thoughts from my book. It's been a beautiful journey. I am so grateful you have joined me. Reach out anytime. I will always just show up for you. And in the meantime, my call to action is always plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party or whatever instrument speaks to your heart. I always have my tambourine because I just love to play it anywhere, anytime. Have an amazing day. Thank you. Namaste, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.